Hello, everyone, and welcome back. As always, I'm your girl, Candy Washington. Before we dive into today's episode, which is Kyle Richards' husband, Mauricio Umansky, attempting to cover up the name of his co conspirators in his alleged $32 million real estate fraud scheme. So before we dive in, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share. So these exclusive details come directly from Radar Online. They say Mauricio Umansky pleaded with the court to prevent the names of the investors involved in his controversial $32 million mansion purchase from being released, and only Radar Online can exclusively reveal the details of his desperate bid. But luckily, I got the deets for you guys. A Los Angeles Superior Court judge recently granted a motion filed by the Dancing with the Stars hunk to seal court documents revealing the names of the investors implicated in the money-making deal. Now, did these details come directly from Mauricio? Because calling him a hunk, I don't know. I don't think he's the hottest house husband, but what do you guys think? Do you think Mauricio's hot? Put it down below. Okay. One of the angry developers in the lawsuit called it a fraud. Kyle Richards' estranged husband was sued by the developer and realtor for allegedly ignoring their $40 million bid to purchase the seized home of the son of a sticky-figured president of an oil-rich African nation dictator who was caught embezzling millions of dollars. So as you know, that is illegal. As a real estate agent, you are legally obligated. It is your fiduciary duty to show all bids to your client. Like you literally have one job and you didn't do it. Umansky was contracted by the U.S. Department of Justice to sell the Malibu spread, but instead purchased it himself with partner Mauricio Oberfield. The duo then resold the mansion for nearly $70 million a year later, netting a tidy $37 million profit. So basically, what they did was a bait and switch. Well, no, not a bait and switch. Basically, what they did was they bought the property themselves, essentially from themselves, since they were the ones who were tapped by the US Department of Justice to sell it, and they then flipped it for a $37 million profit. So, of course, if you're doing this scheme, you're not going to show your client the $40 million bid because then you're not going to be able to flip it for the biggest profit. You're going to show them the smaller bids so you can make the bigger profit, right? And the reason why I think that this case in particular hasn't been able to be dismissed, or he hasn't been able to buy his way out of it or talk his way out of it, or, have his celebrity privilege way out of it, is because he screwed over the US Department of Justice. They are the ones who hired him to do this. Okay. Court documents revealed Umansky and Oberfield convinced others to contribute money to the scheme that unfolded between 2016 and 2017. So basically, they were getting their friends, other investors, business partners to pool their money together in order to buy the property in the first place. So then, of course, once they flip the property for that $37 million net gain, then they're able to divvy up the profit, right? Like, oh, let's all go in, let's pool our money together, buy the house, and then when we flip it, we will divide up the profits. In a desperate bid to get the case tossed, Umansky's team also filed a motion to seal portions of the exhibits revealing the names of the other so-called passive investors, aka his co-conspirators, if it turns out that this was a fraud scheme, claiming he wants to, quote, protect their privacy. Yeah, he wants to protect their privacy. He also probably doesn't want to get sued by them. He probably doesn't want to get his kneecaps broken, because I doubt he's working with the most, up and up people, because this is, an alleged fraud scheme. So I'm sure he also doesn't want to get blacklisted, because you're sloppy. You're sloppy. And the reason why you're sloppy is because don't go against the government. I fought the law and the law won. Not me personally, but in the but the song, you know what I'm saying? So it's like you're sloppy with this. You are able to scheme and scam other regular smuggler people or other rich people. But when you try to defraud the government, because this is the thing, a portion of the proceeds from the sale of the home was supposed to go to paying, the because the son of the dictator, they were doing their own schemes and scams and frauds, and so they got caught, and so that's why they took this property from them. And so the proceeds from the property were supposed to go to all of the fines and the charges and everything that they had. So when you go against the government and you steal from the government, they're going to want their pound of flesh. They're not just going to let you get away with it the way they probably would turn their cheek if it was somebody else, right? So you're sloppy with this. You got to know who to scam. Not that you should scam. I'm not saying I think people should scam people, but this is crazy. Judge Mark H. Epstein agreed to temporarily hide the names following a November 17th, 2023 hearing where he ordered Umansky and the plaintiff's developer Sam Hakim and realtor Eitan Segal to file more robust legal briefs in favor or opposed to exposing the investors. So basically, the judge was like, okay, right now, fine, we won't disclose the names, but both sides need to file motions to defend your position. So, what is your position that we should do this, expose the names, versus what is your position that we shouldn't expose the names? After all, the court has some doubt as to whether the names of the investors are all that critical to the motion or opposition, and if that is correct, the court might grant the motion in that respect, the judge wrote in his opinion. But the court is not sure of that. Defendants have already suggested that all of the investors were mere passive investors, although that was at least arguably not the case. Okay, so basically what the judge is saying is we need more information. The defendants, that would be Mauricio and his partner, Mauricio Oberfield, are saying, oh no, the other people who invested, they're just passive. They're not really a part of this. Of course, he's going to say that because he's trying to protect his co conspirators. These people are not going to want to be exposed as being a part of this alleged fraud scheme. He could be blacklisted in the real estate and the entertainment and the business world if the people that he basically were in cahoots with get exposed. They could sue him, they could sue him for libel or I don't know. I'm sure they could try and sue him for something. Like they could go after him. They could do whatever. It's like when you are in bed with thieves, there's no honor among thieves, there's no loyalty among thieves. So it's basically the same as if a bunch of drug dealers got busted and they're like, no, I don't want to roll on the other people that I was doing the drug dealing with, right? It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's still doing something illegal. It's still fraud. It's still horrible. To me, white collar versus non-white collar, it's basically just a way to make certain people sound better when they break the law and villainize other people when they break the law. Basically, he doesn't want to expose his fraud crew. They're all a bunch of thugs, basically. Okay. And the judge is like, well, we need to figure out exactly how much they were or were not involved before we do that. The judge also indicated the parties may be trying to hammer out a deal that might hinge on keeping the names of the investors out of the spotlight. So basically, now the judge is saying, well, you're saying that they're so passive, but you're basically willing to settle. You're willing to make a deal in order to protect the names of the people that you were in cahoots in. I would love to be a fly on the wall, to be the clerk in that, courtroom, to see who these people are. Like, who are the people that were doing this fraud scheme? I would love to know who they are. I bet you they're very powerful, wealthy people, and he doesn't want to cross them by getting their names exposed. As to the settlement, the court will need to better understand what the nature of the privacy right is of the other than that the parties would like to keep the document confidential. And the court is not even sure of that, as not all of the parties to the settlement have weighed in on the motion he wrote in the court documents. The case is ongoing. So, yeah, basically, Mauricio and his co-conspirator, the other Mauricio, are trying to keep the names of the other people who participated in this alleged fraud scheme private. They don't want to get blacklisted. They don't want their kneecaps broken. They don't want to get sued. Yikes. Yikes. This cannot be good for Mauricio at all. And do you think that this, ongoing $32 million case has something to do with the fact that Kyle is losing her mind and wants to separate from Mauricio? Or do you think, no, the separation has nothing to do with Mauricio basically going down in flames when it comes to this? So put it down below and let me know what you guys think. And before you do that, be sure to subscribe, like, and share. Talk to you later. Bye.